Welcome back to the S3 Magazine podcast. Today, our guest is Chris from E3 Spark Plugs, and I wish that you guys could have been here just like 30 seconds ago. To show the camera what you just showed me, and if you guys are listening, all right. So Chris is like Mr. Toyota, and he just had a Toyota belt buckle made for what is this? A wedding? A bachelor party? What is this?
It's a wedding. A buddy of mine's getting married, and all the groomsmen are going to be dressed in cowboy attire, cowboy hat, boots, the whole nine. And we were like, well, we've got to have belt buckles, right? Like, we got to have a good belt buckle. So I was looking around. I couldn't find, I found a couple vintage ones, but they're all small. I said, no, I need a big one. So I went to Meta AI, and I was like, what would a Toyota cowboy belt buckle look like?
So you guys can't see it. This is a custom-made, legit, heavy metal Toyota belt buckle. That's so badass, dude. So how much was that thing? Like 180 bucks, 200
Yeah,
bucks.
it was like 200 bucks.
But
But I'm the only one that has one, so hey,
yeah, no, yeah, like we were just saying, that's a lot. He was like, I already wore this thing to church, man. I'm gonna wear this everywhere. Anyway,
I originally was making it bigger because it's like, yeah, you've seen like the rodeo belt buckles for the winners and stuff like that.
yeah,
They were like real big. So I was
yeah.
originally sizing it larger, and then I was like, wait a minute, if I make it a little smaller, I can wear it more often. So
Yeah, dude, I had one. Remember Travis Barker's little famous Stars and Straps or whatever? Travis Barker, the drummer
yeah,
from Blink. Okay, so I had this giant Cadillac belt buckle that, because, he was all about the Cadillacs and it was his brand, but I could never sit down because it would poke me in the belly. It
yeah.
had this little lease on the Cadillac belt
Oh my
buckle.
gosh.
Yeah, it was so big that it was like, it was too much, but.
Yeah, that is literally why I made it a little bit on the smaller side, so that I can wear it more often. I can wear it to a caffeine and octane event. Like I can literally wear it whenever I want now. So I'm like, yeah,
So
no,
bad.
we got to go a little smaller, everyday use.
Yeah, dude. Now I want an S3 or Still Hood belt buckle. You know how badass that would be?
Dude, I'm super impressed with the company, like how well they made it. Again, it's rock solid, and they made it in like 2 weeks.
That's
So
insane.
yeah,
And it was just like an online company? Who was it?
yeah, yeah. They sent the proofs and everything. I don't know. I mean, honestly, it's probably coming from China. So,
Yeah.
but it was like GS something. But yeah, I literally just Googled custom cowboy belt buckles, and they came up. They sent proofs. They sent like a 3D rendering so that like I could see that it was what I wanted, and the buckle turned out exactly like all of their proofs, like
That's all.
spot on. Because I was a little concerned spending as much money as I was that it was gonna show up and just be crap.
Chintzy,
So
yeah.
yeah,
No,
no,
yeah. That's
awesome
legit.
quality.
That's got some weight to it. But anyway, the point of the belt buckle, I guess, is to introduce the fact that Chris from E3 Spark Plugs is one of the most diehardest Toyota fanatics that I know, and I know a few. I think everything you have is have you ever had anything that's not a Toyota?
I've never personally owned anything that wasn't a Toyota. No.
That's awesome. I remember one time we were at Jeep Beach, right? So Jeep Beach is just what it sounds like. It's like a gazillion Jeeps at Daytona Beach, and the actual technical show is like in Daytona Speedway. And so you came because we've done off roading together. Of course, you're in a
Yeah.
Tacoma, you know what I mean, and I'm in a Jeep or whatever. But Chris lives in Jacksonville area, so it's a short shot, and he drove down there, and we're hanging out down there at Jeep Beach, and then you find the corner worker or something like I don't know what it basically the guy that's
Security,
on
the security guy.
security
It was the
guy
security
had,
guy for the Speedway.
had like a 1993 Toyota Camry, and you're like, oh, dang man, look at that Camry, and then
We
going,
spent like a half hour chatting. Like it was great.
yeah, so like that's how fanatical you actually have like a restored like 94 Camry, don't you?
My first car was a 95 Camry LE, 4-cylinder automatic, and I still have it.
That's
Um, I've hit 400,000 miles on it, cracked the cylinder head, replaced the head on it, ran the tail of the Dragon on with that setup with 400,000 miles. I ran the tail of the Dragon in North Carolina and spun a rod bearing coming off the mountain.
yeah.
Um, and then I found a guy selling a built 4-cylinder for it, and I manual swapped it at the same time.
Oh,
Ran
hell yeah.
that for about 30,000 miles, and then that engine grenaded. And now I've got a donor V6 Solara, so I'm going to V6 swap it with a TRD supercharger, and it'll still be a 5-speed.
Hell yeah. Okay, so real quick, run through the other Toyotas that you currently have.
So I'm gonna go. So with what I currently own, I've got 8 Toyotas total, and that's 1966 Toyota Stout. It's a pickup truck. Kind of looks like an old International Harvester. It's this tiny little thing, but awesome, awesome, tons of style. I've got 2 1977 Celicas. One of them is a U.S. market left-hand drive. One of them is a JDM right-hand drive. I've got the 93 4Runner, V6 4x4 5-speed. I've got the 95 Camry, which is going to be a V6 supercharged 5-speed. It's currently a 4-cylinder NA 5-speed. I've got a 99 Land Cruiser with a matching 1999 Toyota Epic 22 boat. So nobody realizes or had any idea that Toyota tried getting into the boat market back in '99, and they took the 1UZ V8 out of the LS 400. They cranked the horsepower up to 300 horsepower and shoved it into a boat.
Just time out. What does that sound like? Awesome?
Sounds amazing.
Dude. Yeah, I mean, just for anybody listening, I didn't know that either. And I like watercraft, you know what I mean? Like, and I didn't know that. And then you explained that to me a while back, so I kind of knew as you were saying
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah, that
God,
thing, it sounds incredible. It's a V8 on the water, like,
and it says
um,
Toyota in like huge
yeah,
letters down the side of it. He's
it
got it
does.
kind of looking, I
Yeah.
don't know. You
Yeah, the
got it looking
graphics and
like the
everything on
old
it are awesome.
IMSA cars. Yeah.
And then the last one is a 2001 Celica GTS, the 2ZZ 6-speed manual.
Okay. What about the Arista?
So I don't have that one yet. So that one's not in the 8 of vehicles, but next week I'm importing a 2000 Toyota Aristo V300 Vertex Edition, which that is here in the US, that was the Lexus GS300 or the GS400. Except in Japan, it came with the twin turbo 2JZ GTE. So
Right.
that'll hopefully be here next week.
And that's an
So that'll
automatic,
make
right?
9.
Yeah. That's an automatic, though, right?
That's an automatic for now.
For
I'm gonna
now.
roll with it as an auto for a while. I've heard the transmission's actually pretty decent in it.
Yeah.
It's got the early they called it E-shift, so
Yeah.
you can kind of control the gearing, what gear you're in. So I'm gonna play around with that and see if it's actually any good.
Yeah.
And as I finish some of my other projects, I'm gonna keep an eye out for all the parts needed for a 5-speed swap. Or I'd like a 6, but I don't know that I'm willing to spend the money on it. So we'll see. Because in the 2J world, the Supras, the Aristos, when guys do those swaps, because the Toyota R154 or the 6-speed, because those are so horribly expensive now, they're starting to do 6-speed swaps, I think, out of the Nissan, like the 350 or the 370. I think it's the 350.
Yeah.
But I'm such a purist. I'm such a brand purist. I can't put a Nissan transmission in my car. I can't. So
I
yeah,
kind of get that.
that's just
I
me.
mean, look, it
To each
makes a
their
lot of
own, you
sense.
know?
And if you got a drift car and you're banging through stuff and breaking stuff, I get it. But I'm the same way. I guess I turn into somewhat of a purist when it comes to swapping different makes into different cars.
Yeah.
Kind of have a hard time with it. Like I love a K series. I love a Miata. I love the idea about a K series Miata, but I don't know. Yeah, you know, like it just kind of doesn't feel right. You know, I don't know.
Well, and my thing is
Oh,
to each their own. I appreciate all these builds and the stuff that people are doing. Like people do absolutely phenomenal builds and swaps and everything else. And because the market on the Toyota on the 2J transmissions is so expensive for people to have found a solution with an adapter plate, like that's awesome. And the people that are doing it are great. Me specifically, I can't do it. Like if I'm building a Nissan, it's going to get all Nissan stuff. If I'm building a Toyota, it's going to be within the Toyota family of stuff. Like that's just how I am. So
no, yeah, I get
I'll
it.
probably swap it one day, but for now, I'm just going to run it as a daily and stuff. You know, That's honestly why I got it, so that I could have a daily while I'm working on all these other projects. So
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a good segue to a point that I wanted to get into with you because you are such a Toyota fanatic. We're talking about Nissan, and Nissan is currently on the very edge of bankruptcy,
yeah,
of going away. And then on the opposite end of that spectrum, you have Toyota, which is in. All right. So, for the past four years or so, Toyota has really been speaking their truth about what they think the future of the automotive industry is. Obviously, the automotive industry has pivoted hard to go electric. Now, right now, we've kind of pivoted away from that, but let's pretend this is a year ago or whatever. Um, the whole industry pivoted real hard. Nissan did, all the European, pretty much everybody did except for Toyota, to be honest. And Akio Toyota and Koji Sato, they were pretty honest about their feelings towards EV, and they think it has a place. But as far as completely taking, anyway, they went against the narrative, and they got pretty brutally crucified for it.
they
By
did.
a lot of journalists, by just everybody that was going along with it. It wasn't the popular thing to say, but Toyota was saying it because they were being authentic.
Yeah,
They know about cars, they know about making cars, and they were speaking truth. Whereas the other car manufacturers, and this is where I get really concerned, they know about cars too, yet they were speaking the agenda, right?
yeah,
So the point is, Toyota was very unpopular for speaking the truth, and now here we are, 2025. Toyota has been almost completely vindicated. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like history has proven them right, proven everybody else wrong. Other auto manufacturers, from Nissans to Stellantis to BMW, all these guys are having problems. Mopar, I mean, holy crap! Look at Mopar, gave up the best thing they had going in decades,
yeah.
tried to force the
Wild.
EV down muscleheads' throats, and now those things have hit the market completely cold. Like they have not sold one. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's just not happening. So, what do you think about that as a Toyota fan? I mean, it's made me a fan. I've always respected Toyota and liked Toyota, but it's definitely taking it up a notch because for me, in a world where it's hard to be a fan of a lot of these modern car companies. I mean, look at the Porsche posters behind me.
Yeah.
Like in the 80s, there was a reason to be a fan. That was a sports car company. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like now they're making a crossover that's electric that says turbo on it. So in that world, how do you feel as a Toyota fan? Like you feel like you picked the right team here, I'm
Oh,
guessing.
I know I've been on the right team since the beginning, so that's not an issue there. I
Yeah.
will say they made it difficult. It's like you look at football, right? And Dallas has made it hard for years to be a team. They did great in the 90s, but after that, they haven't been able to do anything really since. So with Toyota, we had our bad years. Our bad years were the 2000s. I was actually just having a conversation with Jesse the other day. We were talking about, what would be like, because my cars, if you look, I've got something from the 60s, something from the 70s,
Yeah.
something from the 90s and the 2000s. I'm missing the 80s. I need something from the 80s. And kind of my target with like my collection of vehicles now is I want to have a vehicle from every decade and, sort of do, all 10 car events and things like that and be like, look, Toyota through the decades.
Yeah.
As we were going through each decade, though, trying to figure out like what is the car that we would want to use, that I would want to use to represent that decade. You know, the 80s, there's a lot of good choices, but when we started looking at other years, just to take this conversation further, we got to the 2000s, and the 2000s has lots of options too. The 2010s, the 2010s decade was terrible.
Yeah.
Toyota completely moved away from everything, from all of the Celica GT4 stuff and the Supra and the big power of the 90s, and carrying that into the 2000s and the tuner cars. In the 2010s, Toyota completely deviated and just left all of that behind, killing the Celica, killing the MR2, killing the Solara, and they were just making cookie cutter box family cars. That was what they were making. And I love Toyota, and but that decade sucked.
Yeah.
they've since then they've come back to their roots as to what you're talking about, with all the different cars. You've got the GR division now. You've got, this three-cylinder turbo car, all-wheel drive system in the Yaris, and they've put it in the Corolla. Um, so all of that stuff they're doing right. And then, as you said, the whole electric EV thing, and them saying no, like hybrid's the way. We're going to keep exploring that. I'm a spark plug guy. Spark plugs is literally my livelihood. But I will also say that I believe that the future of cars is electric. I do believe that's the future. But the agenda is coming in and stifling the engineers and development and everything else and forcing it on everybody when instead it should be the market that's deciding. And as the market decides, that will drive the innovation. And because EV is going to be the future, but if it's forced, the consumer's not going to want it. Because
Right.
secondly, the products are going to suck. They're going to be horribly expensive. They're not going to have good features. It's not going to be reliable. They're not going to have a soul. The only way for the cars to maintain a soul is for the auto manufacturers, the ones who actually care about cars, to build what the people will actually want. That's how we get there. And the bridge to all of that is what Toyota's been doing, which is hybrids.
Right.
Hybrid has to be the bridge to get us to electric. Electric might be another 10 years, 20 years, or even 30 years from now that it's really truly taking on in like good form. But for now, again, hybrid is absolutely the bridge that's going to get us to those places. And Toyota's been living in it. Secondly, other opportunities like their hydrogen fuel cell vehicle. The Toyota Mirai. I drove one. It,
Oh, really?
yeah, I drove one when I was out in California, and I got it as a rental through Turo because they include an entire tank of gas, so I didn't even a fuel, and so I didn't even have to fill up while I was there, and it drives exactly like an electric car does, because the way that a hydrogen fuel cell system works, the hydrogen goes through the fuel cell. Electricity is created that gets stored in batteries and powers an electric motor. So it's not an internal combustion engine. It's not an ICE, but that's still just another alternative fuel, right? That can bridge us to the future of electric, or even a hydrogen future. I mean, for all we know. So, and Toyota, I believe, is experimenting with hydrogen ICE engines. So hydrogen internal combustion engines,
Right. Right.
which again is another clean fuel source. So Toyota's not just being forced into the agenda like so many other automakers are. Toyota's absolutely been doing their own thing, and I mean, I give them kudos for it, and especially coming back to the roots of fun to drive cars.
Right.
The collaboration that they did with Subaru in the FRS BRZ, I think was truly the start of all of this. That was the first fun to drive car that they reintroduced. I'm just happy they're starting to do it a little on their own now instead of working
Yeah.
with companies like Subaru and BMW. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think Toyota is absolutely in a. We are in a golden era that we're gonna look back on and be like, dang man, like look at the energy, like just the energy that Toyota has through the GR line right now and the TRD line, the TRD Pros and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah,
They've managed to create a lot. And I know Akio Toyota has always said they want to make cars for everybody, and they truly do.
they
From
do.
somebody that's very earth conscious and wants to be, eco friendly and get all the MPGs to somebody that wants to have fun on road, have fun off road, be connected to the car. And I mean, they're putting manual transmissions back in when other people are taking them out, like
Yeah,
Volkswagen, and all
yeah,
this kind
yeah.
of stuff. So I do think we're in that modern golden era. I do think you're 100%. Of course, I've said it a zillion times in different little rants, but like the way that EV was introduced, not only was it kind of introduced under like a lie, it was totally wrong. Instead of saying, hey, check this out. This is cool. It might work for your life. Stick it to the man. You don't have to buy gas. It makes instant torque. Like, there's a lot of cool factors here. They came out and basically said, oh, sustainable. They threw that word in there when like we're not sure yet. And they just
Yeah.
kind of went, sustainable, and then they're like, this is the future. It is the future. You don't get a choice. And I think it created a resistance that is going to stick around for a generation. You
Oh,
know
for
what I
sure.
mean?
Easily.
And like you also said, and we'll get into it in a minute, but you are an engineer, so you can relate. Like, it stifled the engineers. Like you have to let internal combustion and hydrogen and EV and hybrids and all of these things compete to find the best way
Correct.
without trying to say what that way is ahead of time. We don't know what the future is. And that's the thing. You had the tech geeks, out there that was like EV's the future, EV's the future, and literally the whole agenda from the automotive industry to governments supported that, and therefore the algorithms supported that,
Yeah.
and everything was funneling into this is the future. And automotive journalists got drowned out, and replaced by people that the voice of automotive culture, or I guess the automotive industry. It wasn't professionals anymore, man. Like all they were talking about was range, screen size. They're not talking about driving dynamics. These are driving machines,
Yeah.
whether they're electric or not. It's not mobility. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they're not talking about the way these cars drive, the way they feel, which was such the 80s and 90s vocabulary for talking about cars. And this was all just about connection, even though it's not connected to the driver, but connected to
Correct.
your phone and
Yeah, it's your
screen
device.
size and range. And I don't know. In my opinion, they biffed this whole EV kind of mainstream introduction as much as they could, man. Like they just
Well, and
messed.
well, and what kills me too with all of like not even just EVs, but like cars, period, right? Like, so it's pivoting away now or back to its roots, which I'm really happy about. But for the last 10 years, you've been losing all of the buttons in your car to
Mm-hmm.
touch and capacitive touch and all of these things, and we're gonna build all of your HVAC controls into your infotainment system.
Yeah.
No. Why should I have to touch 17 buttons and 10 taps
Yeah.
to turn the fan down? Like,
Yeah.
no, that shouldn't be the case. And so Toyota's doing a great job of moving back to physical buttons. They've done it on the Land Cruiser, and I think that they're doing it in some more of the vehicles. Volume knobs. Why are we
Yeah.
getting rid of volume knobs for like a button that you have to keep pushing up, 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 up? Like,
Yeah.
no, give me a
Dude,
knob.
I've been in a Lincoln Nautilus that we had as a press car, and then my buddy, bless him, has a Rivian. And both of those cars, you have to on the screen move the air vents. So rather than just moving the air vent, you have to boop, and then I'm like, what? This is the most dangerous crap, dude.
Yeah.
Like we are ignoring just common sense safety. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
and that's what's getting me is because they're pushing so hard all of this, you know, uh, emergency braking technology and the
right?
cameras and lidar and all these other things. And don't get me wrong, some of those things have good safety features and stuff to them, but
Yeah,
they're trying to implement so much stuff into cars because like, oh, we're trying to reduce the number of deaths and accidents on the road and all these. Get people to start driving their car again and knowing how to drive and getting off of their phone
mm-hmm.
and not swiping on Instagram while they're
Yeah,
driving, and you'll actually make the roads a lot safer. Like
yeah.
that's a soapbox I'm not going to get
People,
onto right now, but boy howdy.
people keep talking about safety and what's safe and speed kills. Speed can kill, sure, but like safety starts with the pilot,
Yep.
and the
100%.
pilot needs to be capable, and the pilot needs to be focused. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
it's just we're just
I'm
ignoring
so
and
proud. I'm so proud of the number of my friends um, that are my friends that are my age that have kids that are coming of like driving age
yeah,
that are getting the manuals. I'm like,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
do it. I'm like,
yeah,
this is because literally, you want your kid to not be on this while they're driving, get them a manual.
yeah.
Get them a
Honestly,
manual. They
you
can't
want
be on their phone.
them to rather drive than be on the phone, not have a car that's so disengaging that they get distracted by the phone. I'm having that battle with my wife right now because my daughter's 11, and it's like I'm starting to think
You're
about
starting to have the convos. Yeah.
what would be a fun car, and I'm like, oh, let's get like a 986 first generation Porsche Boxster, super cool. Like it's got timeless style. Especially if it was lowered and kind of simplified a little bit. And of course, my wife's knee jerk reaction is absolutely not. I'm gonna put her in a tank, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but the tank's gonna have a screen, an automatic, and room for all of her friends in the back.
Not if
You
you
know,
do a 90s tank.
could do a 90, like
Do a
yeah,
90s
kind of
tank.
low. an old Forerunner,
Little Forerunner.
um, and she actually drives. My wife drives a 2015 TRD Pro Forerunner, so
Nice.
that's always the conversation too of like, should we keep it for her?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, here's a question though. I was thinking about a minute ago. Uh, Toyota has struggled a little bit, maybe with going too far on the tech stuff, right? And
Okay.
I drive not as much as most of the other companies. Like Volkswagen is notable for they went all in, they took all the buttons out, and now they're backtracking that because
Yeah.
people are getting irritated. Toyota never went that far. They did a good job for the most part of keeping the essentials as
Correct.
analog as possible. But I have noticed in the new generation Toyotas, which for the most part I absolutely love, that it is my opinion that people that are loyal to Toyota and Lexus, they like a bit of analog. They like to feel the car.
Mhm.
They like rugged dependability over glitz and glam crap, right? And and I noticed in this new generation that Toyota is kind of going what I would call maybe a little too far on some of their stuff, like the new GX, which is my wife's dream car, and some of these other higher end cars. They're watching your eyes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I lost your audio. I'm not hearing you anymore. I can't hear you. I don't know what happened.
all right, are we back?
Yeah.
All right, where did you lose me?
You were talking about the GX and how it's watching your eyes.
Yeah, okay. So the GX in particular is watching your eyes. And so if you're driving at a low speed in a neighborhood and you look over at a house, it's dinging and it's telling you, hey, look at the road. Now, while I appreciate that, overall, like I don't like that. You know what I mean? Like I don't like to pull up to an intersection. Like if I'm turning right out of a grocery store and I'm looking at the car, every time one's passing, it's
Yeah.
beeping it. Like that's people buy Toyota and Lexus because historically it doesn't do that. It's just a good car that's going to outlast the sun.
Yeah.
And I've noticed them starting to go down the beeps and boops road, and I'm just like, don't do it. You know what I mean? Don't do it. But is it inevitable? You know what I mean? At some point, not only because of mandates and all that crap, and I've read in depth on the eye thing on the new Lexus, and literally they say it's there because if somebody has some sort of a seizure while they're driving, the car will ultimately take over, I think, and get off the side of the road. Don't quote me on that, but
Well, it'll
it
at least hit the brakes or something, slow the car down. Like,
and notify emergency,
yeah.
911 or whatever and stuff like that. So like it's like I get it, but at some point I feel like the Toyota fanatics and what they want is gonna kind of come to a head with the tech, man.
Well,
It's
I'll have to go test drive one of those because I'm the kind of driver that if you want to break up, looking at the road, because it's like you shouldn't be looking at the road 100% of the time,
right,
like the road in front of you.
right,
You should be looking at the road in front of you probably 60% of the time, and you should be to the left 20% and the right 20%.
right.
Or if it's 50%, you should be to the left 20, the right 20, and your rear view mirror 10. Like,
Yeah,
you should be scanning. I'm a scanner. When I drive, I am a scanner. I am constantly looking at my surroundings, keeping an eye on where vehicles are around me. Is there somebody coming high speed if I want to change lanes? Like, I'm always looking. If that's how sensitive the system is, it's going to be beeping at me the entire time because
yeah,
it's going to be like, Chris, you're never looking at the road. What are you doing?
yeah. No, and that is how sensitive it is. You know what I mean? Like
That's wild.
as we were driving down a little beach town road, at 25 at golf cart pace, and
Yeah.
your eyes are glancing off left and right. And yeah, there's people. They're riding bikes. They're
Yeah.
walking. There's houses and cool old Broncos in those houses. My
Yeah.
eyes are
Yeah.
dancing around, and it's catching it, man. And it was driving me up the
Interesting.
wall. Also, on that kind of note, what do you think is a Toyota kind of fanatic? Are you supportive of the turbocharged era that they're moving into? Or are you kind of skeptical?
So that you talk about things that are inevitable, like that was inevitable.
Right.
I mean, it's gonna happen. I'm happy that they're maintaining some of the larger engines. They're not going to full four cylinders on everything.
Yeah.
But when I say everything, they're keeping it within like the entire umbrella of like Toyota and Lexus.
Yeah.
So I think, for example, the Forerunner is you can only like the new Forerunner. I think you can only get in a turbo four cylinder.
Right.
The Land Cruiser, which another soapbox that I've been on, is that the new Land Cruiser is nothing more than another Forerunner. In the Land Cruiser, I believe you can get the V6 twin turbo.
No.
No,
Only hybrid. So
oh,
you
it's a
can get
hybrid, is why. Okay,
right, yeah, let me run through it. You can get the Forerunner as a four-cylinder turbo or a four-cylinder turbo hybrid,
hybrid.
which they call iForce or something to try and macho it up.
Yeah.
Then you can get the Land Cruiser is only four-cylinder hybrid. So
Okay.
think of it as like a premium Forerunner, like you
Okay,
said.
that's where the extra power was coming from. Then was the hybrid.
Then the GX is the Land
Oh,
Cruiser body, but it only has the twin turbo V6.
there. That's where it is. It's
Yeah,
all the way at the GX.
it's in the
But so
GX.
so they're keeping some options, but they're only keeping them in certain areas, which is a little bit of the challenge. So, but the turbocharged era was inevitable. Like I hate to say it, there's with the mandates with the EPA stuff that's coming
Yeah,
around, they just have to.
yeah.
I'm
And
hoping. Go ahead.
what's with us because we come from the golden era, 80s, 90s Japan where we're like turbo, yeah, and now we're like, oh, turbo efficiency,
Yeah,
But the truth is, I have a strong want for a new Tacoma, like a base model 4x4, no hybrid, manual transmission, four-cylinder turbo. I want a Tacoma that I shift that blows off, that has 4x4. I think that'd be the coolest little run around, carry your toys truck. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like, I think that'd be super cool. But I think Toyota's also in Toyota fashion, they're letting the people choose. I think they're going, okay, like here's a four-cylinder turbo in this model. Here's a hybrid in this model. Here's the V6 twin turbo. Let's let the market decide.
yeah.
Let's see if we see it sell more GXs than Land Cruisers. You know what
Which
I
I
mean?
think that's one of the reasons that they're probably isolating where they are a little
Yeah,
bit because they're sort of trying to force it. But basically, it's like, oh, you really want the V6? You're gonna have to step up to the GX. Like,
yeah.
sorry. Um,
And the V6 in the twin turbo six and the GX is awesome. I
oh,
know a
it's
lot
got
of
to be awesome. But that
the
vehicle also weighs
Toyota
a ton.
Yeah, the Toyota Nation loves the V8 and the last GX,
Yeah,
and they love it for its dependability, I guess, and simplicity. But the twin turbo six, man, it drives so much better. The old one, like let's call it, it was a V8, but it was a slug. Like the
yeah,
new one, it goes, man. It feels like a wave is pushing you forward when you
yeah,
come off a light. It feels brutish. It gives you confidence. See, I hate personally. Like I hate just the driving dynamics of a hybrid. Like you leave the red light and
yeah,
it's not a dog pulling on the leash. It's like it's built for efficiency. So it stays right in that battery range and
yeah,
drivers tend to drive them slower. And as somebody that's driving old analog fun cars, that drives me crazy because
yeah,
it
yeah,
turns
yeah,
everybody into putzes, man. They're just
yeah,
putzing around. I don't like we had the new Sequoia TRD Pro. Awesome. But I would start that thing up in a parking deck. We were down in Orlando. So Disney Springs, lots of people around. This thing was brand new, and you'd start it, and it had the TRD exhaust, and it would go, whoop, and
yeah,
people would look and be like, God, that was cool. And then you put it in reverse, and it go, whoa, and then it go, ee. It's like no, and that's me being a car person. But even my wife, who is not a car fanatic but appreciates cars, is like, I'm not driving that. Like that's not it. So the Sequoia was out purely because of that,
yeah.
and the GX is in. You know what I mean? So
The
I
more
guess
expensive one would be in, though.
yeah, but I just don't like. You say hybrid is the basically the gateway into whatever the future is. I hope not.
I was gonna say, I love gas, right? Like I'm not saying
Yeah,
I like it. I'm not saying
yeah.
that, but like, as you know, looking at the engineering background, when I was in school, my senior design project was literally studying um, a green, low emission, zero emission shuttle bus system for the University of North Florida here in Jax. And so my entire team of people, we all studied different fuels. From the current system was diesel. We studied biodiesel. We studied fuel cell. We studied full electric, hydrogen combustion. Like we studied regular gasoline. Like we studied all of them, and we had a $20 million budget, and the goal was, with a $20 million budget, which one of these fuels, which alternative fuel will lower emissions the most? The answer is electric. Like it's just that's you can't you can get to zero. You offset it with solar panels. For under $20 million, we were able to reduce emissions by 200%, not even 100% getting to zero. We lowered emissions and we're reducing emissions of the system. Um, and
Is that
so,
emissions after it's made though, and you have the vehicle ahead of you?
wait, say it
That
again?
doesn't. I said that would be emissions after the vehicle is made.
No, we had to
That's
study it all.
tailpipe emissions, right?
No,
That
for
doesn't.
engineering, we had to study it all. We had to study all the way to how are you making the electricity that you're using. We were
Okay.
truly reducing. We reduced total emissions by 200% for less than $20 million.
What about the 7,000 pound battery it would take to move that thing
All of
though,
it, yeah,
and the
all,
hole that
all
that puts in the earth? Like,
yeah, all of
I
it was
always
in.
think, if you want to be green, keep driving that '94 Camry that you got
No,
forever.
agreed, totally agreed.
Like,
And there is some truth to that, because you got to remember this was 15 years ago, or 10 years ago that we were studying this. Unfortunately, costs have just continued to rise. Lithium costs go up because everybody's using lithium now. So, that model may look different today than it did 10 years ago, but that is what the future was. But again, that's a future in the future. Hybrid is the bridge to get there. But at the end of the day, I love gas. I love gas. I'm so excited. I've got a Turbo 2J on the way here next week. Like, it's gonna sound incredible. I'm gonna slap an external blow-off valve on it. Like, I'm gonna do
yeah,
all the
see,
things, and I love all the fun. But um, it's funny though, because you said something when you were talking about the cars. There was a specific word that you used that I think is also important to that whole like turbo conversation. And how did I feel about Toyota moving to all the turbocharged engines and stuff and getting away from the NA, V8s and things like that. Um, Simplicity.
mhm,
My issue with everybody going to all of these turbocharged engines is the lack of simplicity. My
yeah,
95 Camry 4-cylinder was the absolutely perfect platform for any young kid to learn how to work on their own car. You could change the oil filter was directly on top. You could crawl under it with an oil pan. You didn't have to lift anything off the ground. The oil went straight into the pan without hitting a frame or a hose or anything in the way. Again, the oil filter was on top of the motor, so you could just pull it off super easy. Um, Brakes,
yeah,
suspension, changing the radiator out. I mean, you could swap a starter in 30 minutes on that car. Like, everything about that car was so easy to work on. Another example is it was an automatic, so it had a neutral safety switch, right? So that the ECU knows what gear the transmission's in. On that 95 Camry, that's a completely mechanical rebuildable switch. You open it up, it's got copper contacts inside, you sand it down, you get the old grease out, you put new grease in it,
yeah,
bam. That $300 or $400 part, you just spent, you know, $10 in 30 minutes rebuilding it, and it works.
yeah.
The
I
neutral
think,
safety switch in my 2017 Tacoma failed. It was this big, and it's a circuit board. It cannot be rebuilt. It's trash now, and I had to spend $400 on a new one.
yeah.
What?
Well, I think that's what people aren't understanding in today's modern complex world is that sustainability is the hashtag for everything. That's how you get the government grants and all that.
Yeah,
But like simplicity is sustainable at the end of the day. There's a strong argument for that.
yeah.
And it's like you said with cost, man, simplicity drives down the cost. It makes the duration of life longer. We've
Tell me,
lost that sweet
tell me,
spot.
tell me how a $2,000 Ram headlight is sustainable.
Yeah.
Tell
Yeah.
me how that's sustainable.
I know it's not. And tell me how these new cars struggle to get the same MPGs that your Camry or damn sure a little Civic hatchback in the '90s would have gotten. The problem is we like to feel like we're doing good for the planet, but we don't want to give up any of our conveniences. We could
That.
simplify everything, drive a small, cheap, durable, simple car, and probably do better. But we want the $100,000 3 row Cadillac Escalade with the
Yeah.
$3,000 taillight, you
Yeah.
know, and we don't think about when those parts fail, how much
That's
energy
all I
is
think about when I
used.
buy cars.
I know, but like how much energy is used to fix that part? Okay, so Jeeps, the new JL Jeep Wranglers have, they got that auto start stop, and it is very prone to failure. It's a problem in that car. So when it fails, you spend more gas and energy and emissions getting it back to the dealer than it ever saved you. Like
Yeah.
it's just asinine in a way. You know what I mean? But I just I feel like we've lost our minds. I also feel like you're a lot smarter than me though, because you have that engineering degree, whereas I run off of emotions. You know what I mean? You run off of actual data as described in your little thesis project that you had to do with the Bunsen. But that kind of, and I guess if you're good, like let's switch gears and talk about E3. Like how did if you guys don't know, E3 is a spark plug company with a cool design to it, a cool engineering aspect to it. How did you end up at that company? How long have you been there? As long as I've known you, you've been there. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I got my mechanical engineering degree locally here at UNF, and they hired me right out of school. So
uh,
I've been there since then. I started as a fresh graduate out of engineering school. They hired me. I started with customer service with the intention of studying under their senior engineers, learning everything I could from those guys. Their senior engineers at the time. I mean, they had two senior engineers, and between the two of them, they had over 60 to 70 years experience in spark plug manufacturing. I mean, these guys were experts from Autolite, Champion, AC Delco. They I mean, one of the guys literally invented the copper core ground center electrode that
really,
every single spark plug company, yes, one of the guys that I worked under, he invented that. Like, phenomenal group of people. The company stands by the product. A little bit about, E3 and Diamond Fire. Our unique ground electrode design improves combustion. So if you can improve combustion, you can make more power, get better fuel economy, have easier starts. It's more efficient. Everything about it's more efficient. The company spent 7 years doing R&D to verify and confirm, without a doubt, that the technology actually works, that it wasn't just another split fire
right?
or any other gimmicky plug. They really proved that it works. And so for 7 years they did R&D before they finally made their first sale. So company founded in '97, first sale in 2004. Um,
Really?
and then I've been with the company since 2010. So yeah, rolling up on no, yeah, 2010. So I'm rolling up on 15 years. So
Huh. Yeah, I feel like I've known about them since 2004. They must have come out strong or
yeah,
something because
oh, they
I
did, they did.
remember, in the tuner magazines, and this was before I was doing S3. I was just a fan of every tuner magazine, and I remember seeing them out there for sure. Because in
Yeah.
my mind, I feel like it was even before 2004, but I guess not. Are there any, like, how does a diamond fire work? Like, what's the premise there?
So a lot of people look at us and think, oh, we're a three-pronged plug, and it's just like, yeah, our automotive plugs generally have three legs, but it's the diamond shape. I've got one right here. Hold on.
Yeah, I can also throw up a picture, I
Or if you,
think.
yeah, or if you got a picture, but either way, so I don't know how well this will show up, but so I mean,
Yeah.
that's our ground wire design, and it's that diamond shape. And yeah, we've got three legs there that hold it up, but the premise is the diamond hole in the middle. That's really where all the technology is, because our ground wire on our lawn and garden line only has one leg that supports that diamond shape.
Right.
Our power sports and some of our racing stuff has two legs, and then the automotive has three. We slapped a different number of legs on it just to make it unique and change the look so that, again, people could identify us. But that diamond shape, what it does is it kind of offers a third dimension of growth for the flame front. So instead of the flame just having to grow around the regular J wire, it can also grow
Mhm.
through, and it just propagates that fuel faster. It propagates not the fuel, but the flame front. So the faster that flame front can move and propagate through the fuel burning, the more fuel you convert to power before the exhaust valve opens up. Because once the exhaust valve opens, your cylinder pressure immediately drops. So you're not making power anymore. So you want to be burning as much fuel as you can before that valve opens. Um, and that's what our technology does, and it promotes that. So, and we're the only one that does it. Every other J-wire on the market, whether you're from any of our other competitors, it's still the same technology that they've been using since the early 1900s. It doesn't matter if it's platinum, iridium, or ruthenium. All of those things just extend the life of the plug. They don't affect performance. So,
I mean, is there any downside?
no. I mean, people
So
think that there's a downside and everything. And again, results aren't guaranteed, right? Like that phrase of your mileage may vary. Like, I don't know if you've heard of that before, but like,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely, your mileage may vary. We don't, yes, we offer a money back guarantee, right? So if you're not happy with the purchase, you send it back. But our product, again, is the only one that gives you the opportunity to make more power. If you're switching from one J wire to another J wire, if you see any changes in performance, it's because the gap sizes were not correct, or you had a loose wire, or the gap was worn, and there's other factors at play. A J wire is a J wire. There's nothing and that's the little single leg design when I say a J wire.
yeah,
But our Diamond Fire technology truly is different technology. And again, we've proven it. Georgia Tech, Michigan Tech, up in the UP. We've done tons of research at universities, and we have all of that documentation to show. So, and then just dyno sessions. I mean, we've got dyno sessions on our race line from all over the country that
yeah.
are showing that we're making power over our competitors. So, there's really not a downside. The important thing is making sure you find the right one for your application. You slap a stock, our stock recommended plug in a four-cylinder Honda that you've slapped a turbo on that didn't have one before. Yeah, you're probably gonna have an issue. You got to make sure that you get the right plug for the application. But otherwise, no. I mean, there's no downside at all to switching.
So
And cars can't check. Like you look at like in my Camry world all day long, people are yelling, "You got to run platinum." Manual says you got to run platinum plugs. Man, the ECU can't tell the difference of the material of your spark plug.
yeah.
No.
So okay, so that brings up another question. Why, when it comes to spark plugs and probably oil, spark plugs and oil, why are people so weirdly just loyal and married to one spark plug brand in one car? I can give you a million examples, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah,
NGK has that. Like you go in the jet ski world and you're like, oh no, it's gotta be NGK. Or you talk to a hot rod guy and they'll be like, oh, it's gotta be Motorcraft or what? I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah,
But you know
yeah,
what
yeah.
I mean? Like my first job was at Advanced Auto Parts. So I was 16, just a kid behind a computer with these guys yelling at me of why they had to run this particular spark plug brand. Like what, you work in the industry. Have you ever figured out psychologically what is the loyalty to this spark plug brand?
So
And the next question is the brand even the brand that it used to be when they were loyal to it, or is everything getting made in some stupid Chinese factory anyway, and it's all just Walmart brand?
right, the Walmart brand. So
Like,
So on with the whole plug thing, so much of what you're getting in regard to the loyalty, more often than not, it's loyalty to the whatever the OE brand was, not so much a specific brand. In the jet ski world and power sports in general, the loyalty is to NGK. Like NGK kind of owns the power sport world. Jet skis, motorcycles, ATVs, like all that stuff. NGK kind of just owns that world. For a very long time, Champion owned the lawn and garden world. Like
yeah,
that was who owned that world. Um, so outside of those two categories, though, when you really start to look at automotive, it's loyalty to the OE. So if you're running a Ford, Motorcraft all day long. With you look at like a Chevrolet, and I'm pretty sure those guys were all running AC Delco. That's what the OE plug was. So everybody's like, no, 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 my Chevy's got to be running an AC plug. Whereas you look at Mopar, and Mopar for a really long time was made by Champion. So no, 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 I got a Mopar. I'm putting Champion plugs in this thing. So that's where that loyalty came from. It was a loyalty to the OE. And part of the reason that they did that was honestly, it stemmed from the mechanics. It stemmed from the installer.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is because the installer, their mindset is, I'm doing a job for a customer. I know that the OE works because that was the OE spec. I really can't take a risk on an aftermarket part or something that wasn't built for the car, because if they have a problem, now it's on me, and I gotta eat the labor if I gotta fix it later. So, and that's one of the challenges that we've had, because a lot of people, whoa, if your spark plugs, if this Diamond Fire is so great, why isn't every OE using it? They should be installing it in every car if it makes so much power. The OE doesn't want to pay for a spark plug. They want me to give it to them, and then they'll put it in all the cars. Yeah, I'm not in the market of giving stuff away. I'm in the market of selling. So that's why we're an aftermarket brand. When you look at the OE, all those contracts and stuff that Motorcraft has, and Delco and Champion, they're making no money at the OE level. All of their money's made in the aftermarket. So, and again, we're a small fish compared to these guys. Like these other brands, because of their OE business that they've had, they are giants compared to us. So, we're doing a great job in the aftermarket. We've got a phenomenal customer base. But again, that's where you're getting all of that loyalty is it's just sticking to the OE part and why they're so diehard. And secondly, it's also just like generational. Guys, I remember working with my grandfather in the garage, and he had the Champion sign up on the wall. Like, so that's just what people, tend to do. So, but it's so funny how much misinformation gets out there, because like I'll have people reach out to us and be like, "Hey, I was thinking about running your plugs in my Honda, but guys were telling me, no, that's just a muscle car plug. You can't run that in an import." And I'm like, "What? No, why? Why would that be the case?" Or vice versa. I'll get it the other way. I'll get a Mopar guy calling, "Yeah, I thought about running your plugs, but they all told me those were just for imports and turbos." I'm like, "Oh, it's a spark plug. You can use it in anything you want."
Yeah,
So
isn't that kind of like saying a light bulb's only for certain like sockets or
yeah,
rooms?
yeah,
It's
pretty
like, no, it's a
much.
light bulb.
So
It's what it
yeah,
does.
it's wild, man. So
I don't. So what would you pretend you're at either the lake with me and my jet ski buddies, or pretend that whatever you're around my Honda buddies, because they're also tend to be NGK. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like even my Ford Fiesta, people are like, "Oh no, here's the part number for the plug that you have to use,"
yeah.
and it's just that's the way. So what would you tell those guys that are kind of like, "Oh, I don't want to." I don't want to like change because I've got just a loyalty because NGK is what we all use.
I mean, I hate to say, I'm an engineer, and I've been told I'm a great salesman, but I'm not the salesman that's going to be forcing stuff on you. I mean, at the
Right.
end of the day, if your preference is that, fine, it's all good, But I would just remind them and be like, hey, like, I get it, I hear you, but if you ever look, do you ever have problems with it not starting? Do you ever have issues with it being a hard start or a long start or anything like that? Or how often do you
Yeah.
change talking jet skis specifically? Let's use this
Yeah.
example. Yeah, we swap them out every single year because when I take it out, from storage, it doesn't want to start. Try an E3.
Yeah.
I've got guys in motorcycles that have run plugs in their Harley for their entire lifetime. And every
Yeah.
time they take it out of storage, it's just an absolute bear to get them to start. They don't want to start. It's just they're cranking and cranking and they're doing stuff and whatever. I've got guys that'll be like, I put your E336 in my Harley. That is the first time I've ever pulled it out of storage and it just started. Started
Really.
on the first try. I've owned Harleys for 20 years, 30 years, and I've never had that happen before. Like, so check it out, man. Like, just give it a shot, and that's all I would do, and I would
Yeah.
just tell them about the product and let them make a decision from there. So, but I get
Yeah.
loyalty. Loyalty is hard to come over. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it's a pack mentality. I noticed with the jet ski people because we did a little article. Now, granted, I put E3s in my stand up jet ski, and It wasn't a controlled environment by any stretch of the imagination. So I took older plugs out for whatever that's worth. Older NGK plugs out, put these in, and I immediately noticed like a cleaner, quicker throttle response. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, well, old plugs came out, and new plugs went in, so it could be that. But now I've also noticed for the duration, they've been in there for what, a year almost now. The starts are like, is it,
They're
is
quicker
it,
starts. Like that's what our Diamond Fire
that,
does.
I'm
Like,
struggling for the word, but it's like you just hit a pause button. Like, you know what I mean? Like it just kind of goes, and when you're out in the water and you're floating around and you're trying to get it started again because you just went down, you know what I mean? It used to go, now it's just like,
correct.
you're like,
Yep.
oh God. And
Yeah.
that's, I mean, I don't, I assume I've gotten used to the throttle response, and part of that could have been because old and new or whatever. But that fast start is been for the duration, dude. And yeah, I don't know. I try and tell my buddies, I'm like, look, I don't work for E3. I'm not telling you have to try. I'm not holding a gun to your head, but like you should try them. And they're like, I don't know. It's like I'm trying
It's
to talk them
so
into
funny how
drugs.
like
Like,
squirrely people will get when you
yeah,
suggest like something different than what they've run for a million years. And it's just like,
yeah,
look, I get it, man. And that's the reason why when I'd go to Bike Week, I literally would have a saddlebag full of spark plugs, and I'd just be swapping out guys' plugs in the parking lot, on the side of the road, in a campground. Like, I'm like, try 'em, man. They're super, give it a whirl, you know. And they're like,
I
oh, I
bet
mean, if you're
you
putting
do,
plugs
man.
in for me, man, I don't have to do anything. Sure, why
Yeah,
not? That's been the best way for me to get guys that are like super loyal. That's been the best way for me to get them to just try them.
yeah.
So,
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like isn't like the whole like just the whole thing behind car culture or jet ski, world or any of these little hobbyist worlds is to try stuff, right?
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Well,
it
you're
just
modding. That's what cracks me up, right? You get these guys that they're going in and they're constantly modding their vehicle. Whether you're
mhm,
talking a street car, whether you're talking a race car, because you're in a race car, you're literally trying to go faster. It's the whole
yeah,
point.
yeah,
Um, it trips me out when guys that live in those worlds and I suggest a spark plug and they're like, no, 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 I only run this. I'm like, well, why? And they're like, cause it works, it's great. I'm like, but have you ever tried E3? No. Do you not want to make more power? Well, I mean, yeah, but it's not going to make a difference.
yeah,
Again, you talk about horsepower. I think it's dollars per horsepower spend, um, maybe it's horsepower. The horsepower you get. No, I'm pretty sure it's dollars per horsepower. The dollars guys will spend, like a supercharger, right? Or you want to upgrade a turbo, right? Let's say you swap out the factory turbo on an ST, and put a
right,
bigger one in. Like, how much is that going to cost? $1,000,
yeah,
$2,000, or for the tune and the other things, the ancillary things that you'll need and stuff. And so you're talking, let's say it's $2,000 that you're going to spend, and you get, and you're not doing like some crazy turbo. Like, let's say you spend $2,000, you get another 50 horsepower, 100 horsepower.
yeah,
Like, the dollars per horsepower that you just spent, was like well over $100 a horsepower. If you're talking 100 horsepower,
yeah,
you could get 2 horsepower and spend $40.
yeah. Well, that's what I always.
Like,
The cost of plugs are so inexpensive. What? Why not
why
try?
not try?
Why not try? Yeah, it's not gonna
And it's got
cause
a money back
catastrophic.
guarantee. Like,
Yeah,
literally, you can install the plugs, say I don't like the green logo, and return them. Like, I mean,
right, right.
so yeah,
Uh, trying to think of what else, man. I did want to mention, not trying to throw a curveball in the whole flow, but like you guys do lithium batteries, and I've got one coming now for my CRX. And I did not know this. When I hear lithium battery, my brain tends to go, that's going to be super expensive, and I just need a battery now. So I've never gone down that road, but I found out getting yours that's like, especially if you have a car like a Honda that's a lightweight little ripper, right? That doesn't
yeah,
have a big ass motor. You can practically kickstart the dang thing anyway.
really
Like,
good.
you know what I mean? It's a B16 Honda. So I found out the battery's $350, which is honestly what, $100 more than the premium, O'Reilly's Napa brand or something like that. And according to your website, it weighs like 4 pounds.
Yep.
It's
Yeah,
not
it's
even
stupid
possible.
light. You can mount it on the side. You can mount this thing in a fender well if you wanted to, like under the dash.
And that's what I'm getting so excited. And the reason I have it coming in is because I kind of want to play this out because, if you have a Honda, you're always trying to get lighter, lighter, lighter. Like I've got no interior. Like I've scraped out every last little bit of sound deadening to try and save. Basically, I offset the weight I save from the sound deadening if I bring a bottle of water. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like we try to save every little pound, and people spend so much money doing that. And
Yeah.
and my what I'm trying to build this article around is like, holy crap! If this battery is only $100 more than the regular battery, it starts with more oomph. You know what I mean? And I take 30 pounds out of
I
the
was gonna
nose
say
of
you're
the
taking
car.
30 pounds out of
That's
the car.
huge. That's
Yeah.
huge, dude. Like, what would a racer pay? A real racer, not me, to get 30 pounds off the nose of their car?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know. I'm kind of excited about that too. I was just mentioning that because everybody knows E3 from spark plugs, but what are you guys doing with the batteries? Like, what's the plan there? You just gonna keep developing them?
Yeah, I mean the goal, we've got a line of power sport batteries as well as race batteries, and people, oh, well, can I run it in my car? I mean, it's a battery. You string together enough AA batteries, you can start a car. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's a battery. The key is just sizing it appropriately. So for example, the one that I'm recommending for the CRX, it's one of our larger power sport batteries because again, it's such a small motor. You don't have any
Okay.
other things in the car, and again, our batteries offer very serious cranking power. I think the battery that I recommended for you has in the ballpark like over 600 cranking amps, and it weighs 4 pounds. Like, our biggest battery that we offer weighs just under 9 pounds and has 1600 cranking amps.
What
Like,
would you use that for? What does that go in?
I mean, you could fire a diesel with that thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're putting it in your, the drag pack Challenger is running on that battery kind of thing.
Okay.
Um, Large displacement V8s or high compression engines. That's where you're looking for 1600 cranking. As well as just other motors. I mean, they're running those things in the Xfinity series.
Mhm.
Both Xfinity and Arca, they're running that E3503, which is the 1600
Okay.
cranking amp. And some of the guys will run our smaller one because they just want to save the weight, and they'll run our 1200 cranking amp battery in those motors as well. So, and again, those are big V8s. So,
Yeah, I'm
and they're
just
so loaded on fuel, like they need them to spin over
yeah,
fast. So,
I'm excited about that. That's just it's weird. It's gonna feel like an empty battery casing is what it's gonna feel
oh,
like.
100%.
Like
Yeah.
in the Honda world, in the import world, everybody's moving batteries to the back and going through all of that pain in the ass. What for weight balance? It's like, or you just put a 3 pound battery in the front and be
Well,
done with
and
it.
and what a lot of
How
guys
will they
don't.
store? Like, if my car sits for 2 weeks, is that gonna drain that lithium battery or not?
So as long as you don't have a parasitic draw, that's the
Okay,
thing. And so that's the
yeah,
trade-off that you always have with the lithium is you get incredible cranking power with a much lower reserve capacity. That's the goal is to get the battery to be lighter.
right.
So we're able to use a lot less reserve to achieve the high cranking required to get the motor to turn over. That trade-off is if there is a parasitic draw on the car, or if you just have a draw on your car, let's say you slapped it in, the wife's Forerunner, and you're detailing the car one day and you got the radio going
Mhm.
with the motor off, you're not going to be able to listen to music for as long, kind of thing. So that's where you just got to be mindful in sizing your system and remembering what the goal is. Like a starter battery is designed to start the engine and then the alternator take over after. That's really what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, but in
So
my situation where I've got no stereo, no AC, no heat, no interior lights, I mean,
yeah,
there's
as long as
what
you don't have a parasitic draw, you should be fine.
it's
It shouldn't have
no,
any
yeah.
issues at all.
Now the 944, that's a different story. With the battery, just the Napa battery that's in it. Now that thing sit for 4 days, it'll die. I cannot find it. I cannot find
That's
the
kind of
problem.
just a Porsche thing. So
Dude. In my 911, I did find the problem. I don't know why they put a light in the glove box, but they do, and it wasn't latching, I guess,
Oh,
enough to turn off that light, and it was draining the battery, and I could not freaking find it forever. And then one day walked in the garage and didn't turn the light on in the garage, and I saw like this little glow around like the seam of the glove box, and I was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me!"
yeah.
So I took the ball out and yeeted it in the
Just
woods.
pull the bulb.
Yeah,
Parasitic draw gone.
yep, pretty much. But yeah, I'm trying to think. I guess that's kind of it. I got hold on. I got some little sketchy unofficial notes. No, yeah, that's it. That's it. Because I wanted to talk to you about your Toyota stuff. I wanted to talk to you about people's weird obsession with loyalty to their spark plug
Yeah,
brands and
yeah.
stuff like that. Unless you got anything else, what else is going on in your life?
Nah, I mean that's really kind of it. The going through the list. I mean, we talked about my cars and everything. I'm just continuing to work on projects. I think I may try to do it today, but I'm planning on going into the garage and building a set of custom spark plug wires for my 77 Celica that I'm building. So I've got a set. We do performance race wires. That's another product that we do at E3.
Yeah.
And we have some universal wire sets that include all the ends that you need so that you can cut them to length and finish them off. So I'm building a set of wires for my built 20R motor that I'm putting in the 77 Celica. So probably going to work on filming that this afternoon.
Nice. Um, man, I need to get into YouTube again. I had somebody tell me today, an old friend on Facebook or whatever. It's like, man, like I was watching some. He's like, somehow I ended up going down a rabbit hole watching some of the older stuff when we did more project car stuff on
Yeah,
YouTube.
yeah,
He was like, dude, I loved it. It was
yeah,
like fun to watch and very relatable because I'm not working on GTRs. I'm working on $500 project
yeah,
cars
yeah.
or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I don't
You
know,
need to
man. I
film you fixing that BMW and getting that thing running again.
I need to, but I feel like if I was gonna fix it, I'd have done it already, man. Like, I don't know, man. What's going on with me? I used to, you know what I think it is? I think it's in the print era of S3. Admittedly, I had a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I would bust out, and you gotta understand, we had 132-page magazine, like 128 when you take out the covers, and then like 40% of that roughly is like ads or some
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of that the page is dedicated at least for an ad. So like there's what 60 pages or something that like I had to fill, and we do like 10 features tops. I'd bust out those 10 features because my ADD would kick in, and I'd get them done. And then I was like, well, our designer's name is Guy, and I'd be like, here you go, Guy, go design it. I'm gonna go mess with this BMW. You know what I mean? Like, and that was life,
Yeah.
but like now in this chapter 2 digital side of S3, oh my god, the pressure to always make more. Like we have no limit on pages, so you're never off. You're
Yep.
always on
Yep.
every day. I might intend like I gotta put brake switches in my 911 because I got no brake lights. Go figure, German wiring and stuff. But you plan to go do that today, and then you wake up and you're like, holy crap, there's some automotive news. I gotta do an article. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or somebody sends something through, and it's always you're just go going, and that's part of the reason why I think we neglected YouTube. Because for a while there we went after it, and
Yeah,
it
yeah, you
was
did. I
it
remember.
was momentum. And the problem is with YouTube, you put a lot of work into doing the filming and the editing, and man, sometimes they go, sometimes they fall flat, and you're just like, man,
Well, and
that's a bummer.
that's what's been
You know,
slowing me down with all of my progress on the 77 Celica is like I've got a the motor is basically to the point. I've got the flywheel, the clutch kit all mounted on. I need to get the manual transmission and mate it to the motor. That manual transmission that I have, it's a crate engine from the 1970s from Japan that hasn't been used. It's
oh
still
god,
in the crate, wrapped in plastic from Japan with the warranty paperwork in it. That's going to make a great little unboxing video. Like it's perfect
hell
content.
yeah,
I literally haven't been working on the transmission because I'm like, I got to film it. Like,
yeah, yeah.
I just
I
want to go out
hate.
there and do and just start wrenching and ripping things
Uh,
open and working. And then all of a sudden I'm done. And I'm like, I didn't film a thing. Crap.
I hate working on cars and filming.
I know. I know.
And I'm not a mechanic. Like half the time, you got to do it twice. Like you'll go through and you're trying to like talk to this invisible person that is the camera while you're messing with something, and you're like, damn it, I just did that completely wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and it just turns into a whole mess.
Yeah.
It's something that would take an hour takes three when you're trying to
Yep.
film it and get the light right without glare.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sucks, but I don't know. Whatever. Good for you. What
I'm
is your
I'm
YouTube?
I'm trying. We'll see. It's LaCouture Lounge.
Huh?
LaCouture Lounge. My last name, LaCouture. Chris LaCouture. LaCouture
All right, so
Lounge.
LaCouture
URE.
URE. Okay. LaCouture
Yep.
Lounge.
Lounge.
Okay,
Yep.
got it.
I
It
think it's
sounded like
so new that you can't even search for it, so I might have to send you a link.
okay. Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, I think it'd be cool. I like what you're doing because you're such a Toyota fan, and there are so many Toyota fans that it's a good niche. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you're doing interesting, cool stuff.
Well, I love my stuff and I love sharing it with people. I mean, one of our buddies, Hunter, he
Yeah.
saw me post during. So I'm down in Florida, so we have hurricanes. Well, hurricanes don't scare us. We have hurricane parties and everything else. And so when there's a hurricane coming, I'm always trying to prep. What project am I going to be working on while I'm stuck in my house because of the storm outside? So it's what
Yeah.
I call my hurricane projects. A couple of years ago, and I can't turn this camera around or anything, but in my office, I've got the Toyota tailgate up on the back, and in front of me over my computer, I've got the grill and headlights off, like it's the front end off of a 1974 Toyota pickup Hilux.
Oh, sweet.
Um, so I created a frame system so I could actually just mount all the parts to it, and then I can take that whole thing and hang it on the wall. So that was my hurricane project one year. When I had posted a little video of me finished with the thing and spinning it around and stuff, Hunter commented on it and was like, dude, you are always doing such cool stuff. He's like, if you don't start a YouTube channel, I'm going to riot. Like,
Sounds just like them too.
and like, that's just, I just do a bunch of fun stuff, and that's what everybody's always told me. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just trying to share with people. So, hey, if it flops, if it doesn't, it's whatever. So I'm
Yeah.
just sharing while I can. So,
Yeah. No, that's cool. I dig it. All right. Well, I guess that's about it. The good news is we can have you on more. Like,
yeah,
I
I mean,
want to know.
anytime.
I want to know where the Celica GTS goes, man. What's your plans with that?
I mean, honestly, I hate to say it, like I'm probably gonna be selling that one. I love it. It's a little go kart. It's so much fun to drive. It's got a replica Vader front bumper on it. Like, it's such a fun
I
car to drive. But
don't sell it and restore it back to a hot import nights car of 2000. And what year did that car come out? Two, three, one,
I
two?
think maybe '99. If not, it was 2000.
It was like 2000. Because
Yeah,
all right, so I was an Eclipse nut. Like my second gen Eclipse Turbo was my whole identity in college. It's how I made friends. Like hell, in an indirect way, it's how I met my wife. It was everything.
yeah,
And that Celica was the first car that came out since the Eclipse, which back then I thought was the premier car design of all time. It cannot get better than the Eclipse Talon, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
then,
yeah,
and then that Celica came out, and it was like the first car that looked like you were looking through a fisheye lens almost. Like it was like,
yeah,
like it was kind of bent. And then that style ended up really catching on in the Mercedes and the Hyundai Sonatas and all that kind of
yeah.
stuff later on. But that was the first car that the proportions were like something out of an import tuner cartoon. You know what I mean? I
That
was just like,
car looks like it's going so fast sitting still. Like, it
remember
is
that
hilarious.
commercial? Do you remember that commercial where there
Yes,
was a
yes, yes,
red
yes.
Celica and it was just parked and then the dog's going,
Yeah, they're all barking at it and stuff, and you got an old
yeah,
man waving at it. You need to
yeah.
slow down.
Dude, those are so great, man. And I have such good memories with that car and that era. I remember so me and my buddy, some of our friends had gotten girlfriends. This was in college. And so for spring break, they were like doing this group couple thing. And we were like, that's lame. Let's go down to Panama City. We're each driving our cars, even though there's only two of us. He had a
Yeah, yeah.
Prelude. Yeah, he had a Prelude. I had the Eclipse. So we rode down to Panama City, and then after a couple of years, we rode down to Daytona because that was in the Tuner Bash days or whatever.
Okay.
And I remember riding down 95 South. It must have been like around St. Augustine or something like that, going south. And then, back in those days, everybody had the two-way radios. That's how we
Yeah,
would
yeah,
talk
yeah.
all the way down the road. And we rolled up on like 6 cars, imports that were going down to Daytona. And there was like a red Celica that was just of the era, just done up, man. Big
Yeah.
wings, all this stuff, the vinyl graphics, the body kits. And as we were pulling up on them, I heard that group get on the radio and go, "Oh shit, we got a couple cars coming here." And they were like, I heard them going, "Is it turbo? Is it yeah, yeah, it's turbo." And then we got on and started shooting the shit with them and talking to them. And like, so, you know how you have those moments with cars, right? Just those
Dude,
little,
that
that
is what it's about.
that ingrained that car in my head, and I thought it was cool ever since then. And the design was like, man, I need to sell my Eclipse for that. I never did it. I held on to the Eclipse forever. But like, I think you need to bring it back to that era. You can flush out the wheels a little bit more, update a couple things, but we're talking modern image graphics, street glow, whatever the cool body kit was,
Yeah.
big wings. That is so prepped to come back now. Everybody's
It
starting
is.
to try to do it.
Well, and I hate to say it, but that's exactly why I'm probably selling it because that's what's hot right now. Like
Yeah.
the car's got value. I'll be able to get some money and stuff out of it to pay for the
Yeah.
Aristo and two
Yeah.
JZ mods and
Yeah.
manual swaps down the road.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll
And
see.
the
We'll
thing,
see. I nothing's set in stone yet. So
the other problem with that Celica was it kind of started to hit right as the tuner scene got obsessed with drift, and it wasn't turbo, and it wasn't rear wheel drive.
correct.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And so
Yep.
it
Yep.
never really caught. And I wish it had because it could have potentially really changed some of Toyota's trajectory because it was around that era, shortly after that, that Toyota got into the boring years. I
Yep.
remember when the marketing campaign went to like everyday people, and it was like a
It was,
beige Camry and some girl
dude,
going,
it
"Yay!"
was so bad. It was so bad.
Why would you market yourselves as everyday? That's so boring.
So I forgot about this, but the reason that Toyota, because that's the other thing that's funny, right? Is that as I look at this is how like OCD I start getting with like my brand loyalty. I'm not going to put a Nissan transmission in my
Yeah,
Aristo
yeah,
2J car and everything else. With my whole like vision of I want to have a Toyota for every decade, it also kind of has to be a Toyota. Like
yeah.
it can't be a Lexus,
Mm-hmm.
it can't be from back in the 2000s. It can't be a Scion.
Yeah.
And that's the reason that Toyota's branding pivoted so hard against the family car. Toyota launched the Scion brand to go after the younger kids, the tuner cars and stuff. So you had the XA, the XB box car. You had
Mm-hmm.
the Scion TC, which I mean, I wanted a TC when I was in high school so bad. Dude, I was following that car, the development, the launch, the whole nine. Like, as soon as it launched, I went to the dealer and I was like, oh, I can't afford a new car. I have to stay in my Camry. So that is why Toyota pivoted specifically the Toyota branding to, I hate to say it, but such a bland beige marketing campaign because they tried to shift all of the Celica MR2 people over to Scion in a
Mm-hmm.
less expensive car
Right.
that they could afford to introduce them to the Toyota brand. And then ideally when they got older and they were getting real jobs and starting careers and families, oh, you need your boring family car? Come to
Yeah.
Toyota. Here you
Yeah.
are. That was
Yeah.
that was their plan. It failed. I mean, it just don't get me wrong, they sold a bunch of Scions, but like they
Yeah.
eventually killed the Scion brand, and then they oddly moved the cars that they still had into the Toyota brand. So a Scion FRS became a Toyota GT86. The
Mm-hmm.
Scion XA, I think, became the Toyota. I don't know if it was the Yaris or if they just called it a Toyota
Yeah.
XA. It was weird. Yeah. But that was
There was
what
a,
happened.
yeah. I don't know if Scion failed. I mean, it did, but I think it was also a victim of the import scene
It was.
failing.
It was
You
absolutely a
know,
victim of the import
it's,
scene. And
those first cars came out. The XA was, it wasn't the best. The XB was phenomenal.
XB
Like
was awesome, and so was the TC. The XA was
it
a
was,
stupid little commuter car. Like that was
yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah. The XB was almost like a original crossover kind of thing. You know what I mean? But like, I remember being in one and being like, "This is the quirkiest, coolest thing. It's
It
so much
was.
bigger here than it seems like it would be. This is awesome. It was fun to modify, just fun. You
Yeah.
didn't have to justify it. It was just
Well, it was
fun.
inexpensive to modify the Scions too. That was one of
Yeah,
the things. But as you said, it kind of they did it as that whole era was kind of coming to
was
an
dying.
end, which is the problem. I think that
And
the
then,
XB had like phenomenal, like that was the XB was freaking cool. Like as
yeah,
boxy and quirky as it was, the first gen was super hard corners, like very boxy, and then the second gen got all bubbly, but it was
yeah.
still boxy at the same time. Like they honestly they did such a good job with those two cars. Or with the XB in both generations. It was
Yeah,
the TC, the first gen was all right. I think there was a second gen that was still pretty good.
yeah.
But
I feel like,
again, unfortunately, it was towards the end of that era. And I think, honestly, that they made a mistake by doing Scion because the Toyota brand held so strong, right? And for them to
mhm,
abandon that and throw it under an unknown brand of Scion, like, yes, I understand that it was a spin-off and it was a sub-brand of Toyota, but it was still a different brand. And you
mhm,
you lose that a little bit when your parents are looking for a car. When you are looking for a car for your daughter,
mhm.
you because you're such a car guy, yes, you're gonna understand. But let's say the wife was the one shopping, she's not
Yeah,
gonna look at Scion and know that that's a
yeah,
Toyota. Like
yeah.
she's gonna be like, "What is that? No, I'm not buying her that. I'm gonna go buy her a Honda
Well,
CRV." Like,
I've never really thought about it this much, but first of all, Toyota in the 90s had that young identity. And it wasn't just in their little fun cars. I mean, even the RAV4 in the 90s had a youthful
yeah,
energy. The RAV4 looked
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Like the logo looked cool. Like, yeah, it is weird that they decided to pivot. And I feel like cars like the TC in the development stage were probably right in line with what the kids were doing. But by the time it came out, the import scene was quick to shift and finicky, and JDM got cool, and drift got
yeah,
cool, and a front wheel drive, non
yeah,
turbo just wasn't it. And then when those second generation cars came, the Scion went hipster. It wasn't edgy youthful anymore, but all of a sudden it was like this, whatever this new age hippie thing is. You know what I mean? It was kind of going down that route, and so it kind of lost. And those kids weren't buying cars; they were buying
Well, and
coffee
and
and
also
riding
in the
scooters. You know?
second gens, and specifically you saw it in the TC, the second gen TC. I don't know because I never contemplated owning an XB personally, so I didn't stay in the know as well on that one.
Yeah,
But on the TC for sure, the other problem that Scion did was they kept coming out with, you know, every time every what felt like 6 months they were introducing a new limited edition.
yeah,
Oh, there's gonna be 200 of these yellow ones. Oh, there's gonna be another 300 of this Lightning Edition blue, and it's just like
yeah,
what? Like they
yeah.
just they flooded people with these weird limited editions, and I think that also like I think it watered down like the branding of Scion, and it just watered down the experience for people because it's like you keep trying to market all these weird special editions and stuff. Just work on the car itself, like
Right,
and accessories for the cars. Not you got to buy it all as a package.
right, right.
Just sell cool stuff for the cars. Like they lost their way, I feel like, in what the import scene was supposed to be, and they were trying to sell built cars already. And it's like, you gotta let them customize it themselves. Don't get me wrong. Some of those limited edition things, and they were, I think they were called release editions, is what they
Yeah,
called it.
they were.
The release edition, and
Yeah, the people
again,
want a blank canvas. They don't want
yeah,
a built out
they
car,
want a
you know?
blank canvas, and then they do want the Scion or the Toyota branded parts. Like it's cool for the OE to have the stuff, but don't force me into a pre-built package. That was the issue. So,
Yeah.
they shot themselves in the foot a little bit along the way, but they're getting back to roots. So that's what I'm happy about.
Yeah.
If
And
they
well,
bring out a new Celica, like that's so many people have sent me articles about the new Celica, and I'm like, stop, 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 stop. I'm not reading any of this stuff. Cars that look like, I mean, my gosh, the original concepts of the Scion FRS don't look anything like the first gen FRS that they
yeah,
introduced to
yeah,
the
yeah.
world. So,
I'm getting so tired of like the teaser and
I'm,
release and all the hype around it. I just wait. I just show me the car when it's
yeah,
ready, and
I
for
wait.
God's sakes, please don't let it be a $50,000 Celica. See, that's the next hurdle is that somebody, and I hope it's Toyota, and I could very well see it being Toyota, has got to solve this cost inflation, cost of cars problem.
I'm
Now,
really
it's not
hoping the
easy.
Celica's it.
It's not going to be easy.
No.
And but the car industry can't make excuses anymore because we're hitting that critical mass.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to come out, and again, I feel like it's Toyota that can do it with something affordable. It doesn't have to be fast, but it has to feel fast. It's got to be engaging. It's got to be a fun car. It's got to be as analog as possible. It's got to have some sort of rad era nostalgic design meets modern or whatever.
Yeah.
But you've got to get, because people go, well, that's the 8.6. It is, but it's got to be 4 grand, 5 grand cheaper. Like you've got to hit at 25 grand. It's got to, teenagers now and kids in college can't buy a new car. It's priced out of their
Yeah.
market. And guys our age don't see the value in it because we've been on the planet for more than 10 years. And we're like, that's not a $50,000 car. Well, it is now in today's market. Sorry, it's not. Not in my head. I don't see the value in that. And then you have cars like, anyway, I was going to say the Supra ends up competing with the Tundra because the guy that walks in there is like our age and is like, man, you kind of got my heartstrings a little bit by making the Supra. It's not Target. It's got a BMW motor. It's 55 grand, and I really need the Tundra because I've
Yeah.
got a
Yeah.
family
Yeah.
or a boat or whatever the needs are. You know what I mean? So like they need to hit that price point that tugs on the heartstrings and that makes people just go, I'm in. I'm in. Like
Yeah.
the car payment's not going to wreck my life. I want
Correct.
it. It's a great blank canvas. Yeah, it doesn't make 500 horsepower. It doesn't even need to make three. It can make two if it's a fun 200 horsepower. You know what I mean? And you
Well, it's
need
got to
the
be
two
light. Like they got to keep that power weight ratio if they're going to bring the power down. Because
power
that's the other
into it.
problem is you look at the who is
Yeah,
Toyota competing against? It's competing against every other brand on the market, and the American brands have gone all in on power, right? So they're
mm-hmm.
making you could get yourself a V6. I don't know if this is current today, but I
Yeah,
remember when they introduced the V6 Mustang that was making 300 horsepower, and I'm like, what? My gosh, you know?
yeah,
And you can get it for I think 20 grand or
yeah,
$25,000 back then. Again,
yeah,
this is probably 10 years ago or more, but still,
yeah,
like when they did that, I was like, wow, no. The closest thing you could come to 300 horsepower in a Toyota was nothing. Like it was a Tundra. It was a damn truck. Like so,
yeah.
that's a little bit of where like you've got to be careful with it, but yes, it's got to be a non-turbo. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I think a turbo option and stuff would be great, and they probably need it to stay competitive with the other brands. But just talking about a car and what you're bringing out, a decent horsepower car, 2 to 250 horsepower, NA, manual transmission, rear wheel drive, fun to drive car. Like if they can bring
Mm-hmm.
that out and the price point's right, there's gonna be a market for it. Honestly, I'd love to see. I mean, they're talking about the Corolla and everything, but like the hot hatches, like bring the hot hatches back. Like
Yeah,
those are fun to drive cars. They're utilitarian. They're way better than a silly crossover thing.
yeah,
You've got Lex and every brand's doing it, but the ones that I know specifically, you've got Lexus with the. I thought the NX was the smallest crossover that they were bringing out. No, you got this UX thing with a completely. I feel like the Lexus UX is almost like the little racer back Mini Coopers. What is the point of this car?
yeah.
Like, it's got a trunk for what?
I can't with the UX, man. And here's why. We had one as a press car. The car has a CVT, but the
Ugh.
sound in the cabin is a race car with shift points. So when you hit the gas, the tack goes whing and just holds. But the sound that you hear goes, oh,
Stop.
It's like,
No,
what?
that's so
What
disappointing.
is it doing? And these poor people that are buying this car probably think that that's really happening. And so
Yeah.
you cannot fake it. So put that in the little in the notes for
Yeah.
this car. Do not fake the funk. No fake engine noises. None of it. You don't do it. I think that the youth today is nostalgic for a time that they didn't get to experience, and that
Yeah.
in a lot of ways is that rad era, that 90s kind of
It
fun
is.
era,
The
the
90s and the
pop-up headlights
2000s
era, with
era.
pop-up headlights in it. But you know what I mean? Like, I think they're nostalgic for it. I think that they know they're missing something. They don't know quite what it is. So you have to make it affordable enough for them to go, this looks interesting. This looks hip. It looks artistic. It looks
Yeah.
like, man, I want to be an interesting guy that drives an interesting car. Like that whole
Yeah.
mentality is gone. Bring it back. Bring it back. And then, like, if this is Toyota, then you have to market it. You can't make this and then quietly let it sit on the lots while you market the RAV4 and the Highlander. You've got to go out there and explain to the youth why their life means nothing without this car. Why this car is cool and what it's going to give you. You know what I mean? Like how it's going to make you feel, how your life is boring now, and everything is going to be more fun with this car. They have to market it. And you look at car commercials from the 80s and 90s, and they marketed soul. They marketed spirit, things that you
Yeah.
couldn't touch. You
Yeah.
look at car commercials now, and they say, man,
Yeah.
you're such a crap driver that this thing will park for you and back up for you. And they like if you pay
They
attention,
literally
there's
market it
always
that way, and it pisses me off.
it's like an intelligent wife, a gullible guy, and he would have just run into something had the car not braked for him. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you selling? Like,
Yeah.
man, you're just selling incompetence. Like, how about you sell a real product for somebody that really wants it, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, and
that's
it's
my
and it,
for
and it's
that.
not even just the youth though talking about like the cars and getting the right and bringing out the car. It's also it's everybody, right? It's
Is it?
every driver, especially the enthusiasts. I'm diehard Toyota. Diehard Toyota. My newest Toyota that I own is a 2001. That's the newest vehicle that I own. I have zero
Really?
desire to purchase anything newer than that because it's not worth the money of what they're trying to get out of the car. Like it's
Why
just
did you sell a Tacoma? So the Tacoma's just gone and you didn't
yeah,
replace it, huh?
sold that. I mean, it was great and everything, but because I bought the matching Land Cruiser and the boat, I
Yeah.
had the tow vehicle at that point, and I'm just like I wasn't doing all the overlanding and off-roading that I was doing when I built the truck, and so I'm
Yeah,
like, I got to let something go, and literally selling the overland built Tacoma paid for the Land Cruiser and the boat.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
but
There you go.
I don't own anything newer because nothing newer is worth the dollars that it would cost me to buy. If
Hmm.
Toyota does the new Celica right, if they
Hmm.
do it right and it's priced right and it's the right car, I might buy a brand new Celica. Like, because I own a first gen Celica, I
Yeah.
want a last gen. I want the beginning and the end. So, if they do it right, I could buy it, but they haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
The new GX and everything is a really really nice vehicle. Don't get me wrong. I'd love a newer Land Cruiser, but like not a the Land Cruiser that they introduced in the United States is what's called a Land Cruiser Prado, which is nothing more than a GX.
Right.
I want an actual Land Cruiser, which is,
Yeah.
I think worldwide they still sell, and it's called the 300 series.
Yeah.
I would love a 300 series Land Cruiser,
Yeah.
but I can't get that here. So,
I think
um,
this Friday we're getting the LX, whatever the
yeah, the
numbers
LX
are
like
now,
600 or 700 or something.
over trail,
Yeah.
which should be pretty
Oh,
cool.
dude, you're gonna
But
have to let
isn't
me know
that
how
the
that thing is.
LX is the Land Cruiser, right? I mean,
Yes.
the global Land
Yes,
Cruiser.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So the LX is the legit, and they stopped selling the Toyota Land Cruiser in the U.S. I think to force the sales into the LX is why they did it. And
Yeah.
I just wish they didn't do that because the LX. I mean, don't get me wrong, LX is incredible. I mean, you got
Yeah.
massaging rear seats and stuff. I mean, that is a stunning vehicle. I can't come anywhere near being able to afford something like that. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I also
Yes.
don't have the family that would be needed to load into one of those either. It's just me right
Right.
now. So,
Yeah. I hear that.
but Well, you'll have to let
Well,
me know how that is, man. I'll be curious.
I will let you know. And let's hope that somebody from Toyota hears this and goes, "Hell yeah, man! Let's
Hey, if you
make
guys
that."
are looking for somebody to figure out and straighten out your marketing, let me know. I can sell
Yeah,
anybody a Toyota. I'm telling you that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Having said that, I meant to say it when you were talking about Scion, and I forgot. Like Scion, what? I mean, there would be no S3 this far. We wouldn't have made it past the second issue if it wasn't for Scion. Did I ever tell you that story?
No.
I'll tell it real quick. So basically, the way that I got control of S3 magazine was a giant soap opera. Like I was floundering after college, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew what I didn't want to do. I
Yeah.
wanted it to mean something. People always said, dude, you need to write for a car magazine. You're a good writer. You love cars, and I was like, yeah, but there's this many jobs and
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
wants them. Half of them are in Detroit. It's too cold, So, long story short, I found the job with S3. S3 was in Atlanta. They had another magazine that was doing well, and S3 was just kind of quiet, right? But he wanted to hire a couple people and refresh it. The tuner scene was exploding. Obviously, this was 2005. It had
Okay.
exploded, I should say. So I just go balls for the walls, get the job. Wasn't going to accept not getting the job. Got the job, worked there for 6 weeks. He was like, I'm so sorry. We had been shopping, selling the magazine. We decided, me and my wife, they were partners in business, and he was like, a California company is going to buy it to kill it. So there's no opportunity. They're just buying it to eliminate any competition or whatever. I'm sorry.
Wild.
Help us finish the next. Yeah. So like in 6 weeks, actually less than that, in like 4 weeks, I went from getting a dream job to losing it. And
Yeah.
I was just basically just like, no, no, come on, man. You hired us to do something. Let's see if we can do it. Like, let's give us 6 months. And he's like, that's not the way this is gonna work, and finally, after like I don't know a week of me just being in his office before he was every day, going, okay, listen, what if And he was like, I talked to my wife. He was like, they're buying it to kill it. We'll sell it to you and the designer if you can get money, and we can be patient on that. Like call your grandma, whatever you got to
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
try
Yeah.
and crowd. There wasn't GoFundMe, but
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. And he was like, "We'll let you stay in the office." He's like, and I remember I'm quoting him. He goes, "You don't know shit about publishing." He's like, "You wrote a couple articles, congratulations, but we got to teach you how a magazine runs and all of that. But we'll teach you the ads. That my wife will do that because that's what she did, and we'll get you all settled, and then good luck. And so we were like, okay, we're in. So me and the designer bought the magazine. Um, and then I didn't understand how the world worked and how marketing agencies worked for
Yeah.
Toyota and stuff like that. So somebody called me and briefly explained who he was, and I wasn't really hearing it. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
what he essentially said was, "I'm with the marketing agency for Toyota," but I didn't catch that. I was just talking to a voice on the phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was like, so he's like, I heard you guys bought the magazine. Like, what's the story with that? And I was like, oh my God, let me tell you what's going on here. Every day's a soap opera. We're like going out of business, but it's a dream job. And like we're going to do it come hell or high water, blah, 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 because we love this whole thing. And I just was going on. He goes, man, cool story, bro. Like he was like, all right, well, I just wanted to get, updated. That's cool, man. Good luck to y'all. I was like, all right, thanks. And the next day we walked in our little office and there was a fax for like the back cover of the magazine. And then they would do like 2-page spreads. And they didn't go through any proper channels. They just paid their own price. And it was like
Yeah.
5 times more than we would have ever charged them. And it basically, there's like a little note that said, go get them, and it was like, dude, you guys are awesome. And ever since then,
Wow.
man, Toyota's been that guy. They're
Yeah.
a big company, but they're not.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the reason that spawned is when we bought the magazine, we were contractually obligated because we were a title sponsor that the previous owner had already got us tied into at some event in Mid Ohio.
Okay.
So we were like, okay, we're going to Mid Ohio. So we went to Mid Ohio, and there was a girl from Scion that was at Mid Ohio, and she had introduced herself, and I was like, oh, hey, cool. And there was no agenda. I was just like, it's really good to meet you,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so she took it back to him apparently and said, hey, hit these guys up, and we were 25. Like,
Dude, that's rad, man.
we didn't
That's
have a clue,
awesome.
but yeah, and that's the thing. That's how Toyota always worked is even though they're giant, it's that one girl at Mid Ohio,
Yeah.
that gave me a career for so long. You know what I mean? And so yeah, that's what I was saying. Hopefully, somebody from Toyota watches or listens to at least one little clip that I put online from this podcast, and might be like, hey, let's take this to our boss. Like. But then again, it seems like Toyota's already got it. They know what's going on
They're
right now.
definitely back on the right path. So,
Yeah.
which is awesome. So,
Yeah, yeah. I just think we need that one cheap car. And you're right, not just for the youth. I would buy that car.
yeah.
Like I guess my most similar car that I have in my stable is a 2014 Fiesta ST. That's that car. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? That cheap car that's fun to drive. And I haven't gotten rid of it because there is nothing new that can replace the bang for the buck.
Yeah.
Like that car's so much fun and so cheap, you know what I mean, that you just kind of married to it. But like
Yeah.
if Toyota, because I want to own a Toyota, I want to support Toyota. If they could come out with that car, I would absolutely do it.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
GR
Yeah, for
Corolla
sure.
is amazing, amazing car. I love it. But it's a $50,000 hot hatch. That kind of is an oxymoron. Like,
Yeah. That's
I mean,
that
I love it,
it
but
is. Like that's the problem.
at the end of the day, I was sitting there looking at it and looking at my Fiesta and going, the GR Corolla is the better car. It's a Fiesta ST with all-wheel drive. You know what I mean? But like, I can have the Fiesta ST in 30 grand. And the Fiesta ST is honestly more fun. It's more funky. It's more scrappy. It torque steers. It does all the bad things that makes cars fun.
Yeah.
Whereas the GR Corolla is kind of perfection in a way. And it's like, but a hot hatch is supposed to be kind of
Well,
imperfect.
that's where it's, and that's because it's under the GR.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's under Gazoo Racing, that's why you're at 50 grand. You're kind of like we were talking about with the Scion release series stuff. The GR is the finished product.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where I'm curious. I don't know what engine they're putting in because you can get a Corolla hatch that is the same chassis as
Right.
the GR Corolla. So can you get a Corolla hatch in a manual? And what engine is it? And is it an engine that you can slap a turbo on, right? Like is it the platform that are there like again, because I'm not shopping their newer cars. Can I buy TRD suspension or GR suspension or whatever for a hatchback Corolla to start to turn it into my own version of a GR? Like, I feel like the answer to that question is no. Like, I feel like the answer is no, but if it's yes, hey Toyota, let's build a hot hatch, a proper hot hatch. So that's not 50 grand.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, somewhere in the digital statistic driven Google era, like everything's got to be perfect, and it really doesn't. It doesn't. People have got to get out of that mindset. You got to stop comparing cars on their stats.
yeah.
Like all the kids, man, they watch, they read, they know so much, but they don't have that seat time. And in a lot of cases, they don't have perspective. So all they can compare is the stats of this versus that. There's literally, was it Hoonigan? This versus that.
Yeah.
That was their whole series. And that's how the kids think. And it's like, no, it's not this versus that. It's like, how does it feel? How is like if it's this versus that, the GR Corolla beats the Fiesta ST every time. But if we're talking about
so much
emotion,
more than that.
If we're talking about the intangible energy, like let's be real, the GR Corolla is kind of compliant. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's obedient, right? It kind of it's not too much, it's not too radical, but the people that know. Whereas the Fiesta is just kind of like, man, screw everybody. Like I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt to work today. Like it's just that's the attitude of the car, and it's just great. And they need to get that back. Same thing with the Type R, man. They've kind of it's too good. It's too good.
Yeah,
it's too expensive.
Make
it
it's too
worse
polished.
And cheaper.
It's too polished, and that's where I think that they're misstepping. And it's not just Toyota. It's a lot of the brands that they're misstepping. They're all trying to come out with something polished, and it doesn't need to be polished. You need to offer, and that's what's so weird, right? Because they tried to do it with the Supra,
Mhm.
You had when the A90 came out, it was, they had the Turbo 6 from BMW kind of thing. All were automatic, which was the first failure.
Yeah.
Um, but then they were like, but it was so expensive, right? And they're like, well, we know that everybody's going to be modding these things, so we'll offer a 4-cylinder, and that we know that people are just going to pull out. The 4-cylinder was still crazy expensive.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. You gotta
That's the
get the
problem.
chassis.
I guess we are just really impossible customers, is what it comes down to. Because
A little bit, a little bit.
you take the Fiesta ST. We're on that train right now. Like literally, they did a deal with Ken Block. The Fiesta ST probably got, I don't know, 500 million views. I'm just guessing a number from Ken Block. Yet they didn't sell Fiesta STs. Like, what is the breakdown? Ford gave us the car that was affordable and fun, and then put it in the hands of a mega influencer to go do rad hooning shit with it, and it still did not sell cars. So somewhere, even when you get it right, you get it wrong. Like it's just not
The only thing I can stand to reason with that one is it was timing. Because you're
could
right,
be.
it was the right package. As far as I know, the price point was there. There was a guy in my neighborhood that owned two of them.
Yeah,
He had two of the S tier, the RS, whichever one is the highest one.
yeah,
He had two of them, and he
yeah,
loved them.
yeah,
And I think part of it's a timing issue.
yeah.
So there's a possibility that when it came out, the timing was off.
See, and in regards to timing, now is the time, because
Correct.
now we've been beaten over the head with expensive cars and high interest rates, and people can't. You know what I mean? Like the time is right to come out with something that says, "Yo, let's simplify. We'll give
Yeah.
you the aftermarket potential. We'll give you the blank canvas. Like let's simplify it though, so you can afford it. Get a little impulsive and buy it, and then let's sell
Yeah.
some cars, man. And let's not only sell some cars, but let's create a better car customer, somebody that speaks the language of car again. Because all these we got cars that are new, numb, fast, expensive. Like somehow we got what we wanted. We got fast our whole lives. We were like, man, like, oh, fast cars are it. Well, now we got SUVs with 700 horsepower, but like, they're
Yeah.
they're
It's just
expensive.
absurd.
They're numb. They're expensive. I mean, look at BMW's the ultimate driving machine. No, it's not. It's a simulation. Like it's just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not it. They need to figure out what it is again. Anyway, we can beat on this horse for
We could. Yeah.
3 hours. Um, but I just
Well,
looked
appreciate
up.
the time, man.
We're at an hour and 20, which seems about like the length of a movie.
I was gonna say,
So,
you say my clock's saying an hour 45.
well, that's probably how long we were chatting before I hit record.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, anyway, with that, if you guys are still listening, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Um, it sucks because the podcasts always start with like, and then they start getting into the good stuff. So hopefully people made it. Anyway, thank you, man. Let's do this. Let's do this
Yeah,
again.
totally. Let me know.
And y'all go try out some E3 spark plugs so my man here can build a career and build more cool Toyotas.
You guys got any questions? Drop them down below. Shoot us a message, whatever it is, and we'll do what we can to help you out.